welcome to City Council formal meeting for November 17, 2020. And I'm gonna just get us all started with a roll call, please.
Burgess.
Here.
Mims.
Here.
Sully.
Here.
Taylor.
Here.
Teague.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Weiner.
Here.
All right. Well, welcome again to everybody. It is certainly becoming fall, nearing winter with some of the weather changes, but we did enjoy a little bit of warmth here recently, and there's lots of trees down and colorful trees as well. So hope we're all enjoying this time as winter is right around the corner. All right. We're going to start with item number 2. 2A is a proclamation, and I've asked Councilor Weiner to do this one.
Whereas hunger and homelessness remain one of our nation's most pressing domestic issues, and whereas this proclamation is an endeavor to educate and promote awareness about issues surrounding hunger and homelessness, and to inspire action and advocacy on behalf of people with food insecurities and who lack a permanent home. And whereas the plight of hunger and homelessness is an issue faced daily by hundreds of men, women, and children throughout our own community. And whereas food insecurity and hunger stem from poverty and a lack of reliable income sources. And whereas homelessness is the result of a complex set of circumstances that push people into poverty and force impossible choices between food, shelter, and other basic needs. And whereas there are many organizations committed to sheltering and providing supportive services, as well as meals and food supplies to people in need, such as the membership of the local Homeless Coordinating Board. And whereas there has been steady progress to end hunger and homelessness through the collaborative efforts of our community, and we continue to work towards developing resources and capacity to meet the needs of people who are homeless and hungry, and thereby offer them hope, opportunity, and dignity. Now, therefore, on behalf of Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, I do hereby proclaim November 16th through 20th to be National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Week in Iowa City, Iowa, and urge all citizens to join in recognizing the important roles we can each play in making a difference in the lives of men, women, and children who experience hunger and homelessness in our community. And accepting on behalf of the local Homeless Coordinating Board is Kathryn Davis.
Hi. Thank you. On behalf of the local Homeless Coordinating Board, I just wanted to thank the City of Iowa City for the number of collaborative efforts they've been making towards the many projects. We've been trying to prevent homelessness and improve the lives of people in our community through education, advocacy, use of resources. The city has been providing a lot of resources to us to try and combat that. Our winter emergency shelter, our coordinated entry program in order to prioritize those most in need of our services, and all of our other efforts. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Kathryn. All right. Item 2B is our National Native American Heritage Month. And this will be accepted by Jason Glass, who is here on behalf of the Human Rights Commission. So for the National Native American Heritage Month, the proclamation reads, whereas long before European settlers arrived in North America, Native Americans, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians had built thriving societies based upon principles we recognize today as to be the emulated and reclaimed, among them sustainability and community. And whereas while Native Americans, Alaska Natives, and Native Hawaiians have suffered from unjust treaties, discriminatory policies, and atrocious governmental actions, they have nevertheless contributed in countless ways to the success of this country. And whereas exemplars of Natives who have contributed include the code talkers of World War I and II, or Marigolda Ross, the first female Native American rocket scientist who began working for Lockheed in 1942, and Specialist Lori Piestewa, the first Native American servicewoman killed in action during Operation Iraq Freedom. And whereas we honor our Native peoples and recognize them for strengthening the diversity of our society, now therefore I, Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, Iowa, do hereby proclaim November 2020 to be National Native American Heritage Month and encourage all residents to learn more about the Native history, the Native heritage of this country, and to commemorate this month with appropriate programs and activities. And again, to accept this is Jason Glass, Human Rights Commissioner.
Good evening, everyone. I'm humbled to accept this proclamation on behalf of the Iowa City Human Rights Commission. America is a vast land of many cultures dating back thousands of years to the original inhabitants of our land. The history, heritage, and culture of Native Americans should be learned and celebrated by all who now call this land home. You don't have to look far. It's in the faces of our neighbors, the names of so many of our local locations, and in numerous stories. Like much in America, that history is a mix of triumph and tragedy. It is incumbent on all of us to understand our past and to present and present to acknowledge our successes and failures and use those lessons to build a better future. There is no greater example of this than in supporting Native American cultural awareness and education and the vital role it has and continues to play in our nation's story. Thanks to all of our fellow Americans who are part of the Native American community and to their past and continued contributions to our culture and society. As always, thank you to the Iowa City Council for using your platform to elevate this celebration and for your continued support of human rights in Iowa City.
Thank you, Jason. The next proclamation is 2C, Small Business Saturday. And I don't know if Councilor Mims got my request for her to read this. Did you or did you not?
No, sorry, I did not see that.
That is fine. I'll read it. I won't put you on the spot.
All right, sorry about that.
No worries. All right. So, Small Business Saturday. Whereas the government of Iowa City, Iowa celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community. According to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.9% of all firms with paid employees in the United States, are responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. And whereas small businesses employ 47.1% of the employees in the private sector in the United States, 62% of US small businesses reported that they need to see consumer spending return to pre-COVID levels by the end of 2020 in order to stay in business. 65% of US small businesses owners said it would be most helpful to their business to have their regulars return and start making purchases again. And 3/4 of US consumers are currently looking for ways to shop small and support their community. And whereas 96% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that shopping at small, independently owned businesses supports their commitment to making purchases that have a positive social, economic, and environmental impact. And 97% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday agree that small businesses are essential to their community. And whereas 95% of consumers who shopped on Small Business Saturday reported the day makes them want to shop or eat at small, independently owned businesses all year long, not just during the holiday season. And whereas Iowa City, Iowa supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities, and whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday, and now therefore I, Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby proclaim November 28th, 2020 as Small Business Saturday and urge the residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and merchants on Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. And to accept this on behalf of the Iowa City Area Business Partnership is Jennifer Banta.
Thank you, Mayor Teague, for this proclamation. Small businesses are the backbone of our community and a vital part of our economy. Nowhere is that more evident than here in Iowa City, where our unique and innovative small businesses are the backdrop for a vibrant, thriving community. During this holiday season, you can help small businesses by continuing to shop locally safely, shop locally online, order delivery or pick up from your favorite restaurants, and buy gift cards to gift to others or use yourself later. Holiday campaigns such as our Keep the Cheer Here campaign is intended to encourage local spending and keep the dollars here to fuel our economy and sustain our small businesses. Join us in supporting local businesses during this challenging time and continue to shop, eat, and think local on November 28th and every day. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last proclamation for the evening is to item 2D, Transgender Remembrance Day. Whereas transgender people come from all walks of life and make up a part of a diverse community representing all racial, ethnic, and religious backgrounds. And whereas transgender individuals across the world and in the United States are exposed to widespread social stigma, discrimination, harassment, and physical and sexual abuse, and whereas the city recognizes the increasing rate of deaths by violence of transgender individuals nationwide, and the disproportionate effects of this against transgender women of color, and whereas our entire community is diminished when we lose the talents and contributions of any member of our community prematurely, whether due to the direct anti-transgender violence or due to suicide or other health effects relating from trauma or discrimination. And whereas Transgender Day of Remembrance began in 1999 as a vigil to honor the memory of Rita Hester, a transgender woman who was killed in 1998, and to raise awareness of hate crimes against transgender people. And whereas human rights campaign statistics show that 80% of anti-transgender homicide victims are transgender women of color, making the tragedy of anti-transgender violence especially heartbreaking in Black and Latino communities. And whereas the city of Iowa City honors the bravery and resilience of transgender individuals who live, work, or play in our city and their authentic gender, and although we are proud of the existing legal protections we have for transgender individuals to pursue their lives free from discrimination in Iowa City, we reaffirm a commitment to ongoing efforts to promote full inclusion of transgender individuals. And whereas the city of Iowa City is committed to diversity, social justice, equity, and mutual respect and safety of all those a part of this community. Now, therefore, I, Bruce Teague, Mayor of Iowa City, do hereby declare November 20th to Transgender Remembrance Day in Iowa City. And to accept this is Noemi Ford, and she'll be accepting this on behalf of the Human Rights Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I really appreciate that you actually pronounced my name correctly. This means a lot. This is not my first time accepting this Remembrance Day proclamation, and I want to thank the city and you for paying attention for such an important human need in our community. And while we all can enjoy the benefits of our city and what acceptance and human values we hold dear to our heart, I also want to remind everybody we live in a state and a country where not everybody thinks and feels the same way as we do about human rights and transgender issues. So the struggle continues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to move on to our consent calendar, items 3 through 8. Could I get a motion?
So moved, Mims.
Second, Tyler.
All right, public discussion. If anyone from the public would like to address council on any item that is in the consent agenda, please raise your hand and I'll call upon you. If you're on the phone, you can press *9 and I will call upon you. Seeing no one, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Burgess,
Yes.
Mims,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. We are at item number 9, and this is a community comment for any item that is not on our agenda. We ask that you raise your hand if you would like to address council at this time. And also, we ask that you keep your comments 3 to 5 minutes. David, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So I just want to speak on a couple of things quick. So first off, in the information packet that was available, there's the last Human Rights Commission meeting and their 7-2 vote in favor of IFR having a seat at the table during BLM discussions. And I noticed that wasn't discussed during the work session or on the agenda tonight. So it would be nice to hear y'all speak to why that information from your Human Rights Commission isn't being discussed and if it'll be on the agenda for next meeting. And Councilor Burgess spoke with IFRS last week, and one of her concerns was that maybe it felt like IFR has only recently been talking about the mental health response teams and that we're not talking about all the other issues. And this is exactly why the Human Rights Commission recommended that we be able to speak with council during BLM discussions. This 5 minutes of public comment is a pretty terrible way to communicate between council and public. I mean, we would love to meet with you and offer resources and labor, and we've offered that several times. And when we're limited to just 5 minutes of public comment, we don't have the ability to have any meaningful communication with you. Once I'm done talking here, the mayor is going to say what I imagine is the only thing he's allowed to say, which is "Thank you, David," and next we'll hear from so-and-so. And there's just no conversation. It's just sort of us talking at you, and we have no reason to believe that councilors are even listening, since the majority of issues that we bring up are never addressed again. So that's why we often talk about the only thing that seems like you're willing to discuss that's of systemic substance, which is the mental health response teams. One of the other issues that we talked about with Councilor Burgess last week was forming a working group like the TRC, which I know a lot of IFR folks found very successful. At least the working group part of it was very successful. So it's unfortunate that that idea wasn't brought up again or discussed during the work session. But either way, this method of communication that we have going on now just doesn't work that well when the public has no real way of knowing what council is doing or thinking with so many of these important issues we have going on. Just like last month when the city acted behind closed doors to apply for the grant for the co-responder model. I mean, we've just got to find a better way to find clear and consistent communication, working together on all this stuff. Thank you.
All right, thank you, David. Now we'll hear from Nicholas.
Good evening, Council. First, I want to begin by seconding everything David just said. It's extremely apropos, and this is an extremely clunky way to communicate with you all. I want to address just one issue specifically from the work session, and that has to do with the Affordable Housing Action Plan. I just want to remind everyone on council, I mean, I've actually said this in the past, but it seems apropos, that in the 4.25 years that you've had an Affordable Housing Action Plan, the situation that the circumstances that plan is meant to address have actually gotten precipitously worse. And when I say precipitously worse, I mean they've gotten worse in the 4.25 years you've had the plan than at any time before you had the plan. And why is that? Part of the reason is that the plan is woefully incomprehensive, and especially with regards to the terrible decisions you all make with regard to approving basically any development that comes across your desk. So the thing is, whatever modest gains the action plan has made, and they are extremely modest, they're entirely wiped out by the fact that you keep approving all of these high-end housing projects that just consistently, year after year after year, increase the cost of rent in the city. So the thing is, in order for your plans to actually be comprehensive and to have the effects that they need to have, not only do you need to address what you should be doing, but you also need to be addressing what you should not be doing. So I've said it before, but I really think that you need to bear that in mind when it comes into sort of the planning stages for these things. And that's all I have to say for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Would anyone else like to address council? If so, please raise your hand, or if you're on the phone, press *9. Seeing no one, we will move on to item number 10A, planning and zoning matters. This is a rezoning of Camp Cardinal Road, ordinance conditionally rezoning approximately 3.18 acres of land located north of Camp Cardinal Boulevard and west of Camp Cardinal Road from neighborhood public zone to community commercial with a planned development overlay zone. I'm going to open up the public hearing and staff presentation, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Danielle Sisman, Neighborhood and Development Services. This is an application submitted by MMS Consultants on behalf of the landowner John Harding for a planned development overlay rezoning of approximately 3.1 acres of land from neighborhood public P1 zone to community commercial with a planned development overlay. This land is located at the corner of Camp Cardinal Boulevard and Camp Cardinal Road across the street from 80 Gathering Place Lane. As you may recall, we've had another application recently in regards to this development. There are 3 total applications making their way through you for a future development of a community center at this location. The first application, which you've already seen, was for a change to the comp plan future land use map. This is the rezoning of the land, and a little bit later on your agenda would be a vacation of right-of-way request as well. This shows the existing zoning as I said, is proposed to be rezoned to an overlay zoning district with a community commercial zone as well. Because the land does contain several sensitive features that are regulated by our zoning code, there is a reason for the overlay district to be in place to address those sensitive land features. Since our sensitive areas ordinance is intended to permit and define the reasonable use of properties that contain these kinds of sensitive features, allowing for development while protecting resources from damage. As with many types of rezoning actions, we review for 2 main criteria having to do with the comprehensive plan and compatibility with existing neighborhood. In this case, as I mentioned, there was an amendment to the comprehensive plan's future land use plan map to align that map with this proposed change that was known to be coming through the review process. That change was approved based on evidence of circumstances changing both in the surrounding neighborhood, evolving from a mix of open space and preservation as the land was previously owned by the county and planned for public use. And as the county sold the land, anticipating future commercial development being an appropriate buffer between the more intensive Highway 218 uses and the less intensive residential uses to the east. Again, because of the sensitive features, this does have a sensitive areas development plan that is working its way through with this rezoning. In regards to that sensitive feature of a jurisdictional wetland being on the site, the city's ordinance does require buffers around wetlands. It does also include a mechanism for, rather than maintaining a set distance uniformly around a wetland, to average the buffer distance depending on circumstances on the site. In this case, the development, access to this land for development is restricted to Camp Cardinal Road on the eastern side of the slide rather than Camp Cardinal Boulevard, as Camp Cardinal Boulevard is an arterial street and we try to limit vehicular access directly onto arterials. That does put some pressure on part of a wetland in this section to be disturbed by redevelopment. Therefore, the applicant has chosen to try to accommodate and minimize the amount of disturbance to the wetland by averaging the buffer distance and preserving more of the actually higher quality wetlands that are located elsewhere on the site. Included in the packet was an analysis of that buffering. The proposed buffering meets our ordinance. It actually preserves more wetland than if we just applied a standard buffer distance, approximately 2,000 square feet more of wetland. And again, preserves the higher quality areas of the wetland elsewhere on the site, preserving them from future development, in fact, because of the buffer. The applicant also went through the wetland delineation reporting process required because of the Army Corps of Engineers jurisdiction here. That process determined that they did not actually need to comply with any mitigation for the Army Corps. However, our ordinance requires wetland mitigation to be provided and at a higher ratio. So in this case, the applicant will be providing compensatory mitigation of the wetland disturbance, and outlined on the slide is several ways that they're going to do that. Primarily, they're focusing on improving the areas of the wetland that can be improved in that kind of in-between area where they might be slightly impacted. Other features, sensitive features on the site include a stream corridor. Pardon me. Steep, critical, and protected slopes. In both cases, the applicant is proposing to comply with their ordinances for those features. The areas on this slide highlighted in the 2 shades of blue are areas that they are impacting that were actually previously man-made features. So they are complying with their ordinance and definitely not impacting any protected slopes. There are 4 standards for planned unit developments in addition to the sensitive areas that we now analyze when something triggers a planned overlay district. We look at some additional criteria. The first of that criteria really has to do with on-site conditions. Everything from the density of residential development, which is not planned for this redevelopment, to the land use and mass scale and general layout of the development, as well as open space and traffic circulation. In this case, the proposed use is as I said, community event center, which would be classified as a hospitality-oriented retail use and is compatible with the zoning request in the comp plan. As far as mass scale and general layout, the proposed development is a 2-story building, approximately 700 to 800 square feet with some outdoor patio space as well. And it would be required to conform with the city's commercial site development standards. Regarding traffic circulation and on-site impacts, as I said, there would be a single point of access of Camp Cardinal Road. City transportation planning staff have identified that as sufficient as a means of egress. Also, the types of trips generated from the site are expected to be event traffic and occurring on off-peak travel pattern times, and so not impacting the larger neighborhood, and that there would be sufficient capacity to accommodate those projected vehicle trips. The next 3 criteria really have to do with offsite impacts. So looking at the provision of utilities to the site, city water and sanitary sewer are available to the site. Staff does recommend that funds be required of the developer for the upgrading of a small section of the site. Basically, Camp Cardinal Road is only improved to about this location, and there's an additional 25 feet to the northern property line of the subject property that would need to be improved. So according to city ordinances and the percentages outlaid there, staff has included a condition that requires a set aside of money for future improvements to that street. The 3rd and 4th conditions, again, having to do with offsite improvements, have to do with impacts to views and property values and any other kinds of variances requested through the rezoning. As I said, the mass size of this building is fairly low. There's also significant existing trees that will be preserved to the south and west to limit views and buffer the event center from the view of the surrounding neighborhood. And the applicant has not requested any waivers in addition to what we've already reviewed to modify the underlying zoning. As far as next steps, shown here in orange is the step that we're at with the rezoning to the overlay district. As I said, there's one more agenda item on your agenda this evening having to do with the vacation that is coming through. So based on the review of the relevant criteria and the specific criteria for OPD rezoning, staff did recommend approval of the proposed rezoning with 2 conditions. The first condition having to do with the provision of a 15-foot wide utility easement. That has to do with an existing utility that's in place that would be impacted by the future vacation agenda item coming up tonight. And also the payment of funds towards the upgrading of that section of roadway that, as I described, Camp Cardinal Road. At its October 15th meeting by a vote of 6-0, the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended approval of this rezoning. And I believe the conditional zoning agreement has been signed. And that concludes my staff report.
Thank you, Danielle. Any questions for Danielle? Is there anyone in the public that would like to address council, address this item? If so, please raise your hand and I will call upon you. And I see John, and we ask that everyone keep their comments 3 to 5 minutes. Welcome, John.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. John Marner with MMS Consultants, representing the applicant, John Harding. I think Danielle did a great job of covering all of the primary issues on this site. I just want to stress that we tried to work hard with staff over the past year and a half to come up with a plan for the site that maintained as many of the sensitive areas and tried to enhance those areas to the south that she mentioned as much as possible, while providing something that the applicant feels would be very beneficial to the community and to this particular area. And I think that those sensitive areas will complement this use for the site as well. And I'm available for any questions if there's any questions for me.
Thank you, John. Would anyone else like to address council or this topic? Seeing no one, I wanted to ask the council if they're inclined to vote with the P&Z recommendation. And if I can see some, I'm seeing the majority of yeses. All right. I am going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to give first consideration?
So moved, Weiner.
I'll move. Taylor. Second.
Moved by Weiner, seconded by Taylor. Council discussion.
I think this is a nice project. It's a difficult site to develop for any use other than what we're seeing, I would say. And this having a facility that would accommodate community events, I think would be a real benefit to this part of Iowa City.
I think as I did some wedding planning last year, which the wedding didn't take place this year because of COVID, finding property in Iowa City or event space in Iowa City was a little bit of a challenge. There are some, and there are some neat places that I would encourage people to investigate, but depending on how many this facility holds, this would be a great addition here to our community. So yeah, looking forward to this.
I'm also looking forward to it. I drive that section of Camp Cardinal quite often, heading over into Coralville and towards the northern end of Camp Cardinal. It's pretty well developed, filling up quite a bit. But this end of Camp Cardinal has been pretty bare, except for the church. And I was happy to see that the church at one time had expressed that they're pleased to have this here. And as the mayor said, it's going to be exciting to have an event center type venue there.
Great. Hearing no more comments. Roll call, please.
Mims,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10B, vacation and conveyance a portion of Camp Cardinal Road. Ordinance vacating approximately 2514 square feet of Camp Cardinal Road and authorizing conveyance to John Harding. I'm going to open up the public hearing and staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So just quickly, what's a vacation? A vacation is when the city gives up ownership and direct control of land. In this case, it's a right-of-way along Camp Cardinal Road. As you mentioned, the applicant is again on behalf of John Harding for the Harding Event Center concept to be developed. As I mentioned before, this is the final of 3 applications for that eventual development. The conveyed right-of-way would essentially allow the applicant to access the proposed site off of that street. Again, showing this in relationship to the current zoning. As we review vacation requests, there's a set of 6 criteria that we use for that review. They're both evaluating the private and public impact of the proposed vacation. In regards to the private impacts having to do with vehicle and pedestrian circulation and access to other private property, essentially the proposed vacation of the right-of-way does not impact another private landowner besides the one that's wanting to use the area for access to their land. It has no current access to other sites that is provided across it. In addition to other private considerations, the access to the site would be improved through this. You can see their development concept side by side here with the proposed area to be vacated. Again, just providing access to their site. In regards to the public impacts of the vacation, the resulting right-of-way along Camp Cardinal Road would still be 66 feet in width. That meets the standard that we have for a collector street design. Emergency services would still have access to the site, would not be prohibited or prevented by accessing it through a public road system. In addition, the city transportation planning staff has indicated there's no need for additional right-of-way. Sometimes as we see development happen, we move to make sure we've secured enough future right-of-way. In this case, we believe that existing right-of-way or what would be left after the vacation is sufficient. As I mentioned in the previous application, there's an easement that does need to be secured because there's a cable TV utility line that runs along this area that was included in that previous OPD rezoning. So again, in orange highlighted where we are in the next steps for the Harding Event Center, this vacation and conveyance of right-of-way. So based on the relevant review criteria, staff finds that the subject right-of-way can be vacated and conveyed to the applicant while still maintaining the necessary private land and public interests for safety and ease of use. At their meeting on October 15th, the Planning and Zoning Commission also recommended approval. I think that concludes staff report. Happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Danielle? Hearing none, thank you, Danielle. Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand and I will call upon you. If you're on the phone, press *9. Seeing no one. Council, are you inclined to vote in accordance with the P&Z recommendation? All right, I'm seeing some nodding of heads. I'm going to close the public hearing. Could I get a motion to give first consideration?
So moved, Taylor.
Second, Saleh.
Moved by Taylor, seconded by Saleh. And council discussion. Roll call, please.
Saleh,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Mims.
Yes.
Item passes 7-0. Item 10C, vacation and conveyance of right-of-way within the western 10 feet of St. Matthias Alley, adjacent to parcel number 10023340001. Ordinance vacating approximately 1,444 square feet of St. Matthias Alley and authorizing conveyance to the owner of 1120 North Dodge Street. I'm going to open the public hearing. And staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant in this case is J&M Civil Design, applying on behalf of the owner and the developer. Again, for a vacation, which is giving up the city's control of, in this case, a public alley, St. Matthias Alley, located on this map on the upper right-hand corner. The alley runs kind of northeast, southwest along parallel to North Dodge Street. The existing alley right-of-way, as I said, extends along that extent, but it's not fully paved along that extent. Really, the only improved area or paved area is this north-south leg of that alley. It provides access to the subject site, which is directly to the west of it, and to St. Joseph Cemetery. This vacation application was prepared to facilitate the redevelopment and reuse of 1120 North Dodge Street, again, the property just to the left of it, that would function as a mixed-use building with a pickup window for drive-through service for commercial use. This shows the area to be vacated approximately would be a portion of that alley. The vacation would allow for a 9-foot wide drive-through lane to be utilized with the commercial site to the left, while still providing 20 feet of right-of-way between North Dodge Street and St. Clement Street. Again, there are 6 review criteria assessing both private and public impacts of the request. As far as the private impacts, this shows the development concept that the developer is working through, and the reason for the request being, as I said, the drive-through aisle to facilitate commercial pickup, a pickup window on the east side of the building. The vacation will not result in any negative impacts to adjacent properties. The right-of-way will be maintained, and the existing two-way access to St. Joseph Cemetery will continue to be maintained. So it's simply a side flow for the drive-through window traffic while still maintaining two-way directional traffic for the other uses of the alley. As far as the public impacts to emergency utility and other services that not be impaired, as I said, we'll continue to maintain the 20-foot width of the alley, which is the standard width we'd like to maintain. The two-way traffic pattern will continue. And there are no utilities or easements or other restrictions in this area. This shows the other steps involved in the potential commercial reuses of 1120 North Dodge Street. In this case, there would be some special exceptions still needed to be applied for by the developer of that site. There was a previous zoning code text change that is still working its way through your board for commercial reuse code change, which would also help facilitate redevelopment of that site, or reuse of that site. I shouldn't say redevelopment, because that zoning code text change actually requires the building to be kept as is or not torn down. It's not for new development. Anyway, based on the relevant criteria, staff finds that the subject right-of-way can be vacated and conveyed to the applicant while still maintaining a safe two-way means of travel through the alleyway, and did recommend for vacation. At the meeting on October 15th, the Planning and Zoning Commission concurred and also recommended approval. That concludes my staff report. Happy to answer questions.
Any questions for Danielle? Thank you, Danielle. Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand. If you're on the phone, press *9. I do see one hand raised. Ryan, welcome. You're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. Hello, this is Ryan Wade with Wade Investments. I'm just here today as the potential buyer of this property to rehabilitate it. I'm here to answer any questions that council might have.
Hearing none. Thank you, Ryan. Would anyone else like to address this topic? Okay. Council, are you all inclined to vote according with P&Z recommendation? Okay, I'm seeing some not enough heads or a majority. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Can I get a motion to give first consideration, please?
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Saleh. Moved by Saleh, seconded by
Mims.
Mims. Okay. Great. Multiple people were talking. Sorry about that. Council discussion.
I live out in this area, and this building has been sitting there and partially rehabbed for years. So I'm really excited to see that somebody has found a way to make a small business work there, another new small business in the city. So just really excited to see something positive coming from this property.
Roll call, please.
Taylor? Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weiner?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Mims?
Yes.
Salee?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10D, rezoning at 109, 111, 115, 117, and 121 East College Street, local historic landmark. This is an ordinance rezoning approximately 0.55 acres of property from central business zone to CB10 with a historic district overlay for property located at 109, 111, 115, 117, and 121 East College Street. This is second consideration. Could I get a motion, please?
So move, Masaleh.
Second, Thomas.
Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand and I'll call upon you. If you're on the phone, press *9. Seeing no one, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weiner?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Mims?
Yes.
Salee?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10E, zoning code amendment, commercial reuse exception ordinance. This is an ordinance amending Title 14 zoning code to allow a special exception from standards for the reuse of existing buildings in certain commercial zones. This is second consideration, and also staff requests expedited action.
I move that the rule requiring the ordinances must be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Taylor, second.
All right, moved by Mims, second by Taylor. Would anyone in the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand or press *9 on your phone. Seeing no one, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weiner?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Mims?
Yes.
Salee?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to pass and adopt?
Move final adoption. Mims.
Second, Weiner.
Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand or press *9 on your phone. Council discussion. Roll call, please.
Weiner?
Yes.
Burgess?
Yes.
Mims?
Yes.
Salee?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 10F. This is zoning code amendment, parking reduction in commercial zone ordinance. Ordinance amending Title 14 zoning code to allow parking reductions through the minor modification process in certain commercial zones. This is second consideration and staff requests expedited action.
I move that the rule requiring the ordinances must be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended, that the second consideration and vote be waived, and that the ordinance be voted on for final passage at this time.
Second.
Moved by Mims, seconded by Taylor. Public discussion. Would anyone like to address this topic? If so, press *9 on your phone or raise your hand. Seeing no one, council discussion. Roll call, please.
Burgess?
Yes.
Mims?
Yes.
Salee?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Teague?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Weiner?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Could I get a motion to pass and final adopt?
I move final adoption at this time.
Second.
Public discussion. Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand or press *9 on your phone. Seeing no one, council discussion.
I'd just like to say that this whole series that we have been passing fairly quickly right now I find are really positive steps toward making use of properties and allowing buildings that may have been sitting empty to be repurposed. And again, creative use of this on the part of staff.
Roll call, please.
Mims,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 11, unbiased policing ordinance. This is first consideration. Can I get a motion to give first consideration?
So moved, Mims.
Second.
Moved by Mims, seconded by Burgess. Staff presentation, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's Jeff Fruin, City Manager. I'm excited to present this unbiased policing ordinance to you tonight. The template for the ordinance was shared with us by the Iowa-Nebraska statewide NAACP, as well as the Iowa City chapter of the NAACP, and we're continually grateful for their partnership and commitment to collaboration with us. The idea behind this ordinance was also the focus of discussion at the recent Iowa Summit on Justice and Disparities. Now, Iowa City has long had policies that prohibit bias-based policing, but what I've really taken away from discussions with the NAACP in recent weeks is how important it is to give this topic more prominence and how important it is to be very transparent with our expectations and with the procedures that the public has if they feel we have engaged in bias policing activities. So this ordinance aims to accomplish this objective. A few things about the ordinance itself. It clearly defines important terms, including biased policing, fair and impartial treatment, and racial profiling. It explicitly prohibits biased policing and racial profiling, including discriminatory pretextual stops. The ordinance requires employees to articulate reasonable suspicion and probable cause and prohibits the use of language that is derogatory, belittling, or shows contempt for any individual demographic. It also requires our employees to report and intervene when observing biased policing or racial profiling. And again, it outlines complaint procedures for anybody claiming to be aggrieved or that is a witness to such police actions. The ordinance requires that all sworn officers receive at minimum annual training on topics such as cultural competency, implicit bias, bystander intervention, and more. That is already a requirement by policy, but now it is more prominently placed in the Iowa City Code with your approval. We fully support this action, and I think more importantly, we continue to support the NAACP's efforts to introduce this language and get support at the state level. And that's what I think truly our ultimate goal should be. This type of language should really be a part of state code, and hopefully by Iowa City taking this step, as well as other cities that have done so or hopefully will get the state closer to that end goal. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Jeff. Sound like no questions for Jeff at this time. Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand and I'll call upon you. And we ask that you keep your comments 3 to 5 minutes. David, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. So I looked through this, and I really, really hope Council does not see this as some meaningful move forward. You know, reading through all this, it's completely void of any substance or meaningful change, and it looks like it was authored by the police department and dressed up as progress. The ordinance won't actually accomplish anything. If anything, it could possibly make things worse, and I mean that because it could allow the police to claim that they're somehow better trained or more legitimate, which are claims that they were making at the beginning of this summer before they tear gassed Iowa City citizens for standing still with their hands in the air. At that time, the police union was talking about how well trained they are and how great their bystander intervention is, and then they still let all of that happen. So this very much looks like another round of the same thing. I mean, first off, the idea of unbiased policing is literally impossible, as if bias could be stripped from an institution that was constructed and rooted in racism and classism, or as if bias could be stripped out of any individual person. I mean, bias is a neuropsychological function that makes us human and can't be removed. And I mean, council has one of the best neuropsychology departments in the country over in the UIHC building. So, I mean, if folks need to talk to them, I think that would be useful. I mean, I feel like I'm going crazy with the number of times I've repeated this, but I have no reason to believe that it's ever been heard. But focusing on individual factors like individual bias will never address a systemic problem. Police bias reformation has literally been at the heart of every police change for decades and decades, including in Iowa City. And it doesn't do anything to address the underlying problem because you're continuing to ignore the systemic nature of the problem. And instead, you're focusing on concerns within individual police officers. I'd encourage folks to listen to the teach-in that we did a couple of weeks ago that IFR did, and the video we showed of Dr. Angela Davis when she explains the essential difference between systemic changes and empty reforms like this one. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Henry, followed by Betty.
Hi, my name is Henry Montaligud. I don't know all the finer details of what we're talking about here with this, whatever this movement is, but I just want to say that this, regardless, reform is not going to be something that can fix the system that we have in place here. Policing is just an inherently racist, an inherently classist system, and reforming it and fixing, like what the person before me said, fixing individual actions is not going to fix the fact that even the most non-racist of cops, even cops of color, even every single cop is going to arrest homeless people for vagrancy. Every single cop is going to arrest a group of Black teens for smoking marijuana in a car. And these laws and the systems that are going to enforce these laws, regardless of how any individual feels, is going to have racist, classist outcomes. And so I just think that I know that folks in city council might see this as a step in the right direction, but I don't see this as anything that's any change that's more than marginal. I believe that if we really want to work towards abolition and we really want to work towards a more just society, I believe the local government needs to be working with Iowa Freedom Riders at every single level. I believe that Iowa Freedom Riders needs to have a seat at the table for every single discussion, no matter what. That's pretty much it. You can't reform a racist system. That's it.
Thank you, Henry. Betty Andrews.
Thank you so much, Mayor Teague. My name is Betty Andrews. I am president of the Iowa-Nebraska NAACP. First of all, I'd like to thank Iowa City, the City of Iowa City and the Iowa City Police for their support of the Iowa Summit on Justice and Disparities, where we address issues of disparities in the state. That summit has been going on for 8 years now, and we continue to have conversations on how to improve our justice system. So we appreciate that. I also further want to appreciate the opportunity to see this unbiased policing ordinance come before you for consideration. This has been the effort of several years' work and analyzing from the national level down with our experts and working on unbiased policing across the country, and have pushing for success in many areas. The ordinance is modeled after the recently passed Des Moines ordinance, which in turn is a product of our efforts to work with the state in order to address the issue of racial profiling, and also how it funnels into our disparate numbers when it comes to over incarceration in this state. I appreciate that the ordinance before you it defines what unbiased policing is. It prohibits discriminatory stops and practices and disparate treatment. It also provides training in the areas of implicit bias, de-escalation, and then also active bystander training, which deals with the duty to intercede. And then also having the opportunity to clearly state the complaint process and to be able to address that both administratively, but then also looking at other civil penalties that are in place. And while this ordinance is a step and may not be the end all be all, we appreciate the nature of addressing through systematic reform the issue of unbiased policing with you. It has been our, we have been honored to work with Jeff, the interim chief, and the city attorney to address these issues. And we certainly believe that, again, you know, in the context of 2020 and understanding the loss of George Floyd, which spawned a movement that included protesters, but also included our government and included others and called many to act, that this is one of those ways that we are acting. I know personally, I suffered the tragedy of losing my nephew at the hands of police in Tacoma, Washington. His name was Manuel Ellis. He lost his life walking down the street. And so when I see this type of reform coming through Iowa City and just immediately after having a similar ordinance in Coralville, and then of course Des Moines, as we work to put in place a law at the state level, we are appreciative to see this ordinance moving forward. So thank you so much for allowing us, and we look forward to continuing to work with you and others on moving toward a better Iowa and working to make sure that we are addressing these issues of disparate treatment all around. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Would anyone else like to address this topic that hasn't already addressed council? If so, please raise your hand. Henry, I see your hand is raised, but you've already addressed council. Is there anyone on the phone that would like to address council? Press *9. Seeing no one, council discussion.
I'm glad to see that we're doing this. As city manager had mentioned, we've had policies in place for quite some time in Iowa City addressing these same issues, but to raise it to the level of an ordinance, I think is really important and gives it more prominence. And I want to really thank the NAACP and Betty Andrews and her team for the work that they are doing across the state. We know these are not easy issues, and we know people come at them from totally different perspectives. And I think sometimes it's people's experiences. I think we see a lot of difference generationally in how people are reacting to, for example, the killing of George Floyd and other issues of systemic racism. And we have to listen to everybody. We have to take their ideas. And I think, the NAACP has been around a long time and done a lot of very good work. Some people get frustrated they don't do enough or do it fast enough. But I think if you talk to people there, they'll tell you they're doing a lot of work. They're doing a lot of work behind the scenes that takes time to get things accomplished. And so I think this is a good step. I hope it will lead to a lot more cities across the state of Iowa passing this, and ultimately a law at the state level. Thank you.
I want to agree with Councilor Mims and just thanking NAACP for their work. And Betty Andrews, I'm so happy that you're with us tonight. This is my first time actually being on at council where you've been president. I want to just take a moment to talk about how the NAACP has been really a champion here locally within our community. And what I know about the NAACP is that they are constantly working on trying to improve social justice within our community. They're not always on the front page blasting what they're doing, because I really believe that the work that the relationships that they've built are authentic, and they don't have a problem calling people out and telling it like it is, and demanding change and ensuring that the change happens from start to finish of whatever they're involved with. So thank you for that. I've heard from a lot of people in our community that really do appreciate the work that you do. And a lot of it is really quietly done, but really bringing some changes within the community. So thank you there. When it comes down to this unbiased policing ordinance, this is not the end game, but I believe that this does move us and gives us a little more something to lean on when it comes down to just making it an ordinance and not just having it in our policies. And so I'm very grateful for this movement, very happy about it. For those that think that this isn't going to be successful, is just going to be kicking it down the can, I do believe that individual change is most important when we're looking at policing. Individuals that are on the front line, that are being involved with people everyday lives, regardless of whatever the call is, whether it's something that we move towards a mental health professional in the future or not. I really believe that no matter who responds within our community, making sure that these unbiased policing acts are in place is moving us in a direction that I think we want our city to be moving in, as well as the state. So I'm wishing the legislation, this year the best of luck at looking at this and adopting this. There could be some changes that they come up with that might even enhance what's already been presented. But I will be supporting this tonight, and I really appreciate again our staff working along with the NAACP and everybody that's been involved with this. I know our Human Rights Commission and even our CPRB, Community Police Review Board, they're looking at cases like this all the time, and this would just help give some clarity when they're looking at those cases as well. So thanks, and I will be supporting this tonight.
I think this is a really excellent example of how sometimes procedural change can help push the difference that we're trying to make. And as our city manager noted, we already had these policies in place, but codifying it into law is real and is meaningful. And I also just want to thank everyone for their work. And Mayor, thank you for your comments. I really echo what you just said.
I also want to second what the mayor said and thank everybody who work on this. There is a lot of work need to be done regarding the justice systems and the policing, but I think this is a huge step moving forward. I will be supporting this.
I also support it for all the same reasons that everyone has said. It's good to see it actually in print.
Yeah, I will be supporting it as well. I've heard it said that politics is downstream from culture. And I think this kind of codification is in a sense downstream. The end game is changing the culture. That takes constant vigilance and struggle. I'm a little bit more familiar with the issues related to the Americans with Disability Act. That's been in place 30 years, and yet we still find places which are not accessible or persons with disabilities being discriminated against. So it's something that requires constant vigilance. It's good to have the laws in place, but ultimately the end goal in my mind is shifting the culture, and that that requires considerable effort, but this is part of that effort.
I echo what my colleagues have said. I view it is not the be all and all. It is a building block, as are all the other things that we're putting in place, both based on our June 16th resolution and all the other things that we are doing in addition to that. It is one building block, and every single building block is necessary in order to work on the road to change and affect change.
All right. Well, we look like you're ready for a vote. So roll call, please.
Sully,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Mims.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 12, waterways, wastewater connections ordinance. Ordinance amending Title 16 entitled Public Works, Chapter 3, City Utilities, Article D, Wastewater Treatment Works Users, Section 6, Building, Sewers, and Connections. This is first consideration. Can I get a motion, please?
Move, Saleh.
Move Saleh, seconded by Burgess. Staff presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Teague, and Council. This is Ron Konecki, Public Works Director. Currently, our code does not allow for a direct connection of anything that would allow surface water or groundwater to enter into our sanitary sewer system. An example would be a sump pump that's directly connected into their floor drain in a basement. Currently, we don't allow that, but this would clarify that the property owner is responsible for removing that illegal connection. There's not a way for us to require that to happen without clarifying this as the code currently exists.
All right. Any questions for Ron? Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand. And if you're on the phone, press *9. Seeing no one, council discussion. Hearing none, roll call.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Mims,
Yes.
Sully.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 13, City of Iowa City 2021 legislative priorities. Resolution establishing the City of Iowa City's 2021 legislative priorities. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved, Weiner.
Second, Taylor.
Staff presentation. We can't hear you, Rachel. And you're unmuted. I'm not sure why. We can't hear you. We still can't hear you.
Let me jump in, Rachel. If you figure it out, feel free to come in and interrupt me. As you know, Rachel Kilberg's our assistant to the city manager, and she is our point person for legislative affairs at the state level. She's been working to pull together the legislative priorities that are based on your strategic plan. And with some of the items that were contained in your June resolution on systemic racism. So we spent some time walking you through these on November 2nd at your work session. I don't plan to go through each one, but I'll just make a couple of quick mentions, and certainly we can try to answer any questions that you have. One of your strategic plan priorities is climate action. And among our legislative priorities would be a call for the state to initiate their own climate action plan, as well as providing the city more flexibility with energy codes and asking the state to adopt the most recent energy code, which is the 2021 International Edition. When it comes to your objective to advance social justice and racial equity, there are a number of things noted. We do support the recommendations that came from the Governor's Focus Committee on Criminal Justice Reform. And part of that was what we just talked about with unbiased policing, but there's also data collection recommendations and additional ones that we think would be really important for the state to take up. I also want to note that we think it would be beneficial for the state to conduct a statewide review of community police review boards. I think they're going to see a number of cities introduce community police review boards, and it sure would be nice for the state to study that at their level and really analyze what changes need to be made to give these boards the powers that they need to have to be effective in their role. And then lastly, we're advocating for an expansion of the state hate crimes law to allow us to more effectively address situations in which there's harassment based on individual's demographics. We also support diversion programs that have not been able to get off the ground here, mostly specialty courts such as a civil mental health court, and generally more state support for mental health treatment here in the state of Iowa. From a financial standpoint, the council is very familiar with the backfill situation. That backfill is incredibly important to the city, and we want the state to continue their commitment to providing that backfill. As a reminder, that backfill was created with the 2013 property tax reform, and essentially it's the state reimbursing us for lost property tax that came with that reform. That reimbursement is critically important, and yet we continually see efforts to claw that back. Protecting home rule. This has probably been our biggest focus the last few years at the State House, and trying to make sure that we remain in control of local issues here, and that we're not subject to state preemptions. So that'll continue to be on our list this session. We also support the university student government with their efforts to require rental property move-in checklists. We hope that bill gets reintroduced this year. And then I also want to mention our support to enhance the rights of residents in manufactured housing communities. And again, there was a bill last year that didn't get the support it needed to move through forward. We do hope some version of that bill is introduced again this year and can move forward. We join a number of entities in the area and across the state, and really urging the state to focus on the expansion of broadband services to the community. While much of the effort will probably be on rural Iowa, we also want to make sure that the state is focused on our low to moderate income residents, and that includes both infrastructure expansion as well as making sure that there are affordable options for those that need that service. And lastly, we continue to urge financial support for our educational partners, be that K through 12, University of Iowa, Kirkwood Community College, all those entities, organizations, play a significant role in our local economy, and we just want to make sure that they have the funding that they need to be successful in their missions. I'll leave it at that, but happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
I don't really have any questions. I just have a comment. I think we all recognize that it's going to be a challenging year at the legislature, and I guess we'll be discussing those with our legislative delegation soon. But I would hope that we would be able to make some progress, since it has been a priority of the governor and others on civil mental health courts and on mental health funding in particular, as well as maintaining the backfill and hopefully on broadband.
I really like this entire resolution. I think it shows to be a very thorough job of organizing our all of our thoughts and objectives. I just had one small little comment though. Several times, even though I found it, I going back and trying to find it again. Just the little phrase about the decriminalization of small amounts of marijuana. It seems to be kind of tucked in the middle of that paragraph and doesn't really stand out. And I think if it could be separated out from that sentence somehow, would give more emphasis on that, because I think that's an important thing.
Yeah, I would agree about the decriminalization of marijuana, if we can highlight that a little bit more. Any other questions for Jeff? We'll have opportunity to give comments. Would anyone from the public like to address this topic? If so, please raise your hand and press *9 on your cell phone or phone. Seeing no one, council discussion. I guess I'm personally looking forward to our opportunity on November 23rd to talk to our legislative delegates about our legislative priorities, and also the Iowa League of Cities as well as the Metropolitan Coalition. We'll have an opportunity. They're going to have some things aligned with what our priorities are, but not all of them. So we do have some lofty goals here, but I think they're all warranted. And really it comes at a good time within the state where many of these things are already in the forefront of our legislators in some form or fashion. And so I think that even though it's going to be a challenging year, I would agree with Councilor Weiner. I also feel that this is appropriate time for these priorities to be before the legislation. So I'm supportive of all of these. Roll call, please.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Mims,
Yes.
Slate,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Passes 7-0. All right. And we are at number 14, council appointments. And we have quite a bit of work to do tonight, but we're going to start with 14A, which is the Ad Hoc Truth and Reconciliation Commission. There's 9 vacancies, term effective upon appointment through June 30th, 2022. And we're going to go ahead and start with council discussion. So I think for this one, we might separate this one and deal with Truth and Reconciliation first. Go through all the appointments, and then the other commissions, which there'll be 4 others that will go through. We'll probably go through those and then kind of combine them if people are in agreement with that. All right. So let's start with the Truth and Reconciliation. And I'm thinking maybe what we could do is, if someone is willing to share maybe people that they're supporting, or maybe we can start there.
Mayor,
Oh, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say it's really a marked moment also of the city of Iowa City, seating a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We joined just a small handful of communities in the United States who are undertaking this kind of attempt to bring forward truth in our community and also work on the healing that we know needs to occur. We have a gender balance requirement for all of our commissions. And so when I was looking at how to break down potential appointees, first of all, we have 26 applicants. All of them to me had merit. I was very impressed with the depth and qualifications of everyone who applied, and just want to say thank you to the community for cluing into this and paying attention and putting each of those individuals who put their hat in the ring. So we had many more female applicants than male. And so when we're looking at the gender balance, I kind of started with the assumption that we may have 5 female and 4 male. And in response to what you were bringing forward, Mayor, I thought that the male appointees were maybe a little bit easier as far as who I would recommend. So I would just start with that. Eric Harris, Kevin John Rivera, Mohammed Traore, and Anthony Curran were the 4 male individuals that I nominate.
Okay.
Interestingly, I'm the same people that just Laura said. I choose them and I write down. But is this have anything to do with like resident of Iowa City?
I think it's Johnson County residency is required. Iowa City residency is preferred, but not required if an applicant offers expertise or representation not available from other applicants who reside in Iowa City.
Okay. I second Laura's nomination.
I would agree with those 4 as well.
I want to make sure that I have them correct. Is Eric Harris, John Riviera, Mohammed Traore, and Anthony Curran. Is that correct? All right, great. All right, so any other suggestions for?
This is Pauline.
Yeah.
My list was very similar. Also, Curran and Harris and Rivera, but I also thought the addition of the clergy, David Berger German is clergy and part of the Consultation of Religious Communities, and I thought that he would be a good addition to this.
Okay. Any other male recommendations?
I ended up with the same 4 that Laura introduced, although I'm sympathetic to certainly David German, but in the end, I support the 4 that Laura proposed.
I would as well.
Okay.
We have a really broad a group of people who are incredibly diverse and well qualified, each on their own merits. I know a number of them. I think we're very fortunate to have them applying.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? I think we should, right now it sounds like we have a consensus for 4 of them, and we have an additional one that for consideration because we have one non gender balance requirement. So let's go over to, we had a lot of female applicants and some great ones. I mean, it was it was a lot of compare and contrast. It was very difficult to make these decisions. So I wondered if anyone wanted to just suggest some of the people that they may move forward.
I would be willing to put forward a number. It's actually probably going to be a couple of more than we can actually appoint, but in terms of sort of pulling the list in a little bit, on the women that I was looking at are include Amel Ali, Ariana Aron, Daphne Daniel, Raneem Hamad, Tashaylin Harrington, Leanna Navar Jackson, and Royce-Ann Porter. And so of those, the ones that's a sort of my slightly larger universe of those, the ones that my personal preference would be for at this point, although they all are well qualified, would be Amel Ali, Raneem Hamad, Tashaylin Harrington, Leanna Navar Jackson, and Royce-Ann Porter.
And how many we need? I'm sorry if you can remind me.
we need a total of 5, aside from the four males that we decided that we have consensus on. We need a total of 5 other commissioners.
And your final is 4 now or 5?
So we would need 4 or 5. I still think we have to consider that non-gender requirement. But again, I think there were so many women that applied. But nevertheless, it sounds like, can you go through your last list so that I make sure that I had them correct? I heard Amel Ali,
Right.
Raneem
Hamad,
and Tashaylin.
Tashaylin Harrington.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I put Tashaylin on there knowing that she's not Iowa City, but she works in Iowa City and brings an enormous, in my view, would bring an enormous amount to this. Leanna Navarre Jackson.
Okay.
Royce-Ann Porter. Yeah.
All right. Okay, so that's 5 that that's been suggested. Wanted to just get other people. Anyone else have someone that's not on that list?
My list is very similar. Amal, of course, Raneem, and Royce-Ann. But I also added Amanda Nichols because she was the one specifically said that she is on the CPRB. And that was one of the suggestions we had, was that someone from that commission apply for this. So I thought she would be good for that, although everyone was qualified. Tashaylin is good because of her shelter house connection. Nikisha, her Dream Center connection. Jennifer Buckley with her NAACP connection. I mean, everybody just had such wonderful qualifications. But I would add Amanda Nichols to Ali Hassad and Porter.
Okay. All right.
I'll give you the 5 that I came up with. Daphne Daniel, Raneem Hamad, Tashaylin Harrington, Liana Navarre Jackson.
What was the last one? I'm sorry.
Liana Navarre Jackson.
Yes. Okay.
And Royce-Ann Porter.
Okay. All right.
Trying to balance age a little bit. And so many factors, but that was one that I was considering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, John, I was doing the same thing. And yeah, I just would reiterate what others have said. The qualifications here were just tremendous. I want to thank everybody who applied. I went through and it was like, wow, this is going to be tough to narrow these down because there's a lot of really good people, balancing qualifications. And I felt it was important to have some age balance in there as well. The 5 I landed on actually were the same ones as Janice did. And just a couple of things that I would mention, just some of the qualifications I just thought were really good. I've talked to some other counselors who knew some of these people better than I did. And the one question that some people may have is about Royce-Ann. And I will tell you, I debated on Royce-Ann when I started as an elected official in the community and thinking, well, do we give somebody like that a slot, or do we open it up to other people in the general public? And where I came down on this was the work that she has done in this community for years in an activist role and looking at these issues of injustice and having that kind of history of what has been done, what has not been accomplished, but the efforts that have been put forward. And I think that's a really valuable perspective to have on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. You need to know kind of where we've come from and what has been done. And I think that experience that she has is really valuable for this. So, and I won't go into all the others, but I think that could be one person that some people would have a question on just because she is an elected official in the community. And so that was my thinking as I went through this. So I would agree with the same 5 that Janice had, Amel Ali, Raneem Hamad, Tashaylin, Harrington, Leanna Navarre Jackson, and then Roy Sandporter.
If I could add briefly one thing about Roy San is she also has served on the CPRB.
I did. Oh, sorry. Go right
Go
ahead.
ahead, Mayor.
Oh, I was just going to chime in, and I certainly had some stars by a lot of names. I did 3 stars, 2 stars. Most people got 1 star, and for various reasons. That I mean, it's so hard to try to figure out a new commission when you have so many applicants. And again, thanks to all of those that put their name out there to be considered for this. I looked at, people that are in the community, because I tried to, in Iowa City limits, because I tried to say, all right, Iowa City residents preferred, but if we can't, then we need to, unless an applicant has an expertise or a representation not available from our applicants. And I mean, it was just a challenge when I looked through here, but the believe it or not, I had more 3 stars for people than 5. So of the 5 that were mentioned, Amel Ali, Raneem, Tashaylin, Layana, and Roy San, I can support all of those 5. There is a few others that I really think would be good on there, really good on there. But I think I'm hearing the majority of council supporting them, those 5 so far. So we'll see how it all ends up. All right, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I support also those, but I really would like to add Priscilla to this list. And
He was one of
I don't
my
know.
3 stars.
Yes, she's great. She'll be great on this. But yeah,
Yep. She's, I mean, again, she's not from Iowa City, but I also felt that she would be phenomenal on this. And she's a school teacher.
yeah. But for me, also like the same people, Royce, Sound, Raneem, and everyone else that Jenna said.
Yeah, I also had a longer than 5 list of people to consider. Priscilla Culp was also on my longer list, as well as Wangui Matharu.
Who was the last person you named?
Wangui Matharu
Okay. Yep.
was also on that.
Okay. All right. Well, it does seem that we have a majority for the females to be Amel Ali, Raneem, Tashaylin. And then I'm not exactly sure where we are with Layana Navarro Jackson. I think
All
I
of us.
heard
I
all of
guess
us.
there is 4. Yeah, there is 4, Raisan, Raneem, Layana, Amal, and Tashandra.
Okay. All right.
I've
So I
been
think
counting too, but double check.
so I think I had Weiner, Mims, John, and Burgess for Liana. Is that correct?
Yeah, for me it
So,
is.
huh?
Yeah, I support her.
Okay. So I think we have the majority for those. So could I get a motion to approve the following? For the, I'm going to do it by gender. For the males, we have Anthony Curran. Did I lose sight of my males? Eric Harris. Kevin John Riviera. And then,
Muhammad.
and yep, at the bottom, Mohammed Traore. And then for our females, we have Amel Ali, Raneem Hamid, Tashaylin Harrington, Liana Navari Jackson, and Roysan Porter. Could I get a motion to approve those?
Move to approve those.
To appoint those.
Second.
All right. Moved by Mims, seconded by Salih.
Yes.
All right. All, roll call, please.
Thomas,
Yes.
Weiner,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Mims,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Moving on to 14B, and we're going to do 14B through 14E collectively, if that's, yep, all right, we'll do that. So, I'll take them one by one. Climate Action Commission, we have 2 vacancies to fill a 3-year term, January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023. And we had 3 applicants. I am sorry. I knew that wasn't right. Yes. All right. So we have 2 openings, 1 male requirement and 1 none requirement.
I'd like to propose Matt Krieger. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his last name right. He's filling an unexpired term, and was he serving as the chair also? But oftentimes we have somebody who's especially serving an unexpired term, we give them an opportunity for a full term. So I would promote Matt as one of them.
Yeah, I would support Matt, and also John Fraser, who is also currently on the commission.
I also like John Fraser. I was impressed the fact that he mentioned that he had actually attended the Paris Climate Change Accord, which is very impressive, and I think suits well, as well as being on the commission now. So Fraser and Krieger.
So the I don't have, and I'm going to find John's application. Because he was on the commission before, do we know how long? I didn't write that down. I just wrote that he was on the commission before.
I don't think the commission has existed more than 1 term's worth, has it?
No, it has not.
He mentioned that he was on the original Climate Action Board. So that was some time ago, but then now I think he's just finishing his first term.
Okay.
Maybe if we could get, I don't know if Kelly could provide a little clarification. The climate action demographic report that's in the packet looks like John Fraser's term doesn't actually end until the end of 2021. Is that right?
I don't know, because there was another document in there that said it ends in December. So there were 2 conflicting.
Yeah, I was just noticing that. So let's see, John Fraser.
And this commission has only been in force for about a year.
Yeah, and they were put in with rotating with all, what am I going to say? Some had 1-year terms, some had 2-year terms, some had 3-year terms to start with. So they didn't all end at the same time.
Yeah, I wonder if that isn't a software glitch, because the terms that are up are for GT Carr and Matt Krieger. And so with John currently on there, I wonder if since we keep those applications for a year, if he somehow got stuck in the hopper.
Okay. So we wouldn't be considering John Frazier. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then,
Yeah, GT and Matt are the ones that are coming off.
In that case, I'd put forward Megan Hill as the second person.
okay.
Yeah, she has an interesting and very relevant educational background.
I would support her.
I like her, but of course, last time I also supported Lucy Wibmeyer because I think it might be a nice perspective to have someone from a medical background on the commission.
Okay.
This is Ashley. I'm not sure if it is one of the applications that's been held over or not from prior. Megan Hill's current staff of the city. And I'm not sure if that's something to be considered.
Yeah,
I know she's shown much interest in the past and continues to do so with a lot of activities around here. So
yeah,
I
but cashier and rev, but it didn't say where. So if it's with the city, we wouldn't be able to consider her, would we?
No,
yeah.
I think her application says she's a cashier in revenue, so the way that we have, there is nothing that says a city employee cannot serve on a board or commission. Obviously, there would be a conflict if the employee was serving on a commission that was related to the job they did. That doesn't appear to be the case here.
Thank you, Eleanor.
Yeah, I'm happy for that clarification because I always thought that they could not, but thanks for that clarification.
I mean, it's certainly something that you can consider, but it's not an automatic disqualification when it's an unrelated area.
Okay. Any other recommendations? So far, we have Matt Krieger. It sounds like the majority of council is supportive of him. So we need one more appointed person. So we have Megan Hill, and I believe that Lucy, is that your recommendation, Councilor Taylor?
Yes.
Okay. Any other recommendations, or do we want to focus in on these two and see where we land?
Those two.
All right. So who would be supportive of Megan Hill? You can raise your hand and I can. Okay. We have majority. So we'll go with Megan Hill. All right, going to move on to 4C. And Mayor Pro Tem, you'll have to speak out because I don't see you right now.
That's okay. I'm with her. Yeah,
Right.
supporting.
Yep. All right. We're going to move on to Parks and Recreation Commission. This is 2 vacancies to fill a 4-year term, January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2024. And so
I would suggest that we reappoint Alex Hackman. Again, he's serving an unexpired term. And then our other requirement is a female. So we're either going to need to wait to get more applications or wait till January to do a non-gender appointment, if I'm reading this right.
That's right.
I'm sorry, is this for which commission? Sorry.
Parks and Rec.
Barker Rex, okay.
So we have Alex Hatchman suggested for now. And because we don't have any female applicants, we would have to wait. So we only have one appointment. Any other suggestions for a commissioner?
That
All right.
sound good.
Sound like we're gonna support Alex for this one. Going on to the Public Art Advisory Committee. 2 vacancies to fill a 3-year term, January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023. And we have 2 vacancies, 1 female requirement and 1 none.
Isn't it 1 man and 1 none?
I'm on the wrong one. You're right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I thought I had these in order.
We had a lot of them.
Mayor, and I'm not sure I got that cover sheet printed for you.
All right. Nope, it's not here, but I got it. All right. So we have, yes, 1 female and 1 male. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Let me get to that one. 1 male and 1 none. Great. All right.
And there is a male, Stephen Miller, who's currently serving on it. In fact, it says currently the chairperson, and talks about how passionate he is about arts and public art. And I would say reappoint him.
I agree with that.
I would agree.
Yep, I would too.
Okay. And then we have a 1 non-gender balance.
And again, we've got an individual serving an unexpired term, Jan Finlayson.
So I would support her. Anyone else supportive of Jan continuing?
Yes.
All right. All right. Okay, and we are down to the 4E Human Rights Commission, and this is a 1 female and a 1 none. And 2 vacancies to fill a 3-year term, January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2023. And we always have a lot of applicants on here. So thanks to everybody that want to be a part of this commission. This is really good. We do have, I want to point out, a unexpired term for Bijou. Well, unexpired term. And so I would suggest that we reappoint Bijou.
I would agree.
Yeah. And also, I don't know, I agree with that too. But I would like to ask, because I cannot access all the applicants for this for somehow, is Zach Rochester's like applying back?
Zachary Rochester, is that who you mentioned?
Yes.
Yes, he is reapplying, correct.
I think so, I just believe that he was like going through something and now he's back, and he would like to be there. I will love to appoint him too with PU.
So,
All right.
I like Zachary, and I would also offer up another alternative. A couple of us checked to sort of see what with Stephanie to find out what kind of representation there is, what kind of representation is missing. One that she pinpointed that there's no Latino representation on it. And it struck me going through this list. I mean, you want to see the list. There's we had 54 applicants, which is just an astounding number of people. Even if a few of them were holdovers from prior lists, 54. That's, everybody in the city who applies to be on one of these commissions has at least my undying gratitude, because it is work for your city, that's uncompensated work for your community. So thank you so much. But the other person, when I was looking at it with that filter on, seeing if we could help find a little greater representation, was Maria Bruno, who has also a really interesting background and is Latina. So that's the other person that I would put forward.
Maria, yeah, I also like Maria. She's very active in the community, and also, as you said, she's gonna represent the Latino. But given the fact that we been giving people second term, this person even he did not finish his term. If we can have him back, Zach Rochester would be great. And next time, maybe Maria.
Yeah, I would go with Janice's suggestion of Maria. And I mean, I think when we look at the large Latino, Latinx population, Hispanic, pardon me if I'm not using the proper terminology here, but I think we have such a large population that is not being represented, that I would really, and I did make a notice, and I do like you do the stars or whatever, and had written next to hers, really good application, and then additionally kind of checking that box in terms of representation as well. So I would go with Maria Bruno.
I just wish we had more spots to fill.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm impressed that the number of applicants we had, and we're blessed in this community with so many people who are willing to do this type of civil service, and it's just amazing. And the qualifications are and it was all over the board as far as their ages and their gender and what they do for a job, their ages. I was torn. One reason I was torn. I do know Dan Daly, and he's a wonderful person, and he's always been an advocate for labor rights, workers' rights, which workers' rights, as we know, are human rights. And I don't know if we've really ever had a true labor person on that board, but that would be good to have. But of course, he's not Asian or Latino. He's very white, but he would be good. But I think he's someone that we should keep in mind for future appointments, since we're kind of limited on who to put on here now.
Yeah, this is kind of a frustrating one for me because there are more people I would like to support than there are positions. Just mention Polly Marshall, just to mention her name. But given the nature of the HRC, I think the idea of appointing Maria Bruno makes sense, along with Bijou.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to jump right in there. So it sounds like we do have support for Bijou, Bruno. There's support for Zachary as well. But it sounds like the majority of the support is swinging for Maria Bruno to have that balance and representation. It sounds like I think it's very important that we do ensure that we have a Latino voice on the Human Rights Commission. So I will support Maria, and I would agree with Mayor Pro Tem Zachary. He has a lot to offer the commission. But given we only have 2 spaces, I'm going to support Maria with this.
I definitely go with Bijou. I think she's a perfect attendance on the commission and participates in all the discussions. And I think she's been an excellent member and warrants continuing on that commission. And I would go with Maria. She had a good application, and being the Latino would provide a nice balance on there.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So I think we are ready to make our slate here. One second here. I'm just gonna make sure I have everything. All right. So could I get a motion to appoint the following to our Climate Action Commission: Matt Krieger and Megan Hill; to our Parks and Recreation Commission, Alex Hackman; to the Public Art Advisory Committee, Stephen Miller and Jan Phileason. To our Human Rights Commission, Bijou Malibu and Maria Bruno. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved, Thomas.
Moved by Solis, seconded by Thomas. And roll call, please.
Weiner,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Mims,
Yes.
Salee,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Teague,
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. And thanks again to all the applicants. This is this is really hard. I mean, you have all these great stars and you can only pick 2 people. So all right, moving on to item number 15, announcements of vacancies new. Applicants must reside in Iowa City and be 18 years of age unless specific qualifications are stated. Parks and Recreation Commission, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term upon appointment through December 31st, 2022. Applications must be received by 5 p.m. December 29th, 2020. And could I get a motion to accept correspondence?
So moved, Weiner.
All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we're going to go to item number 16, announcements of vacancies previous. Again, applicants must reside in Iowa City and be 18 years of age unless specific qualifications are stated. Airport Zoning Board of Adjustment, 1 vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Board of Adjustment, 1 vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Board of Appeals, licensed electrician, 1 vacancy to fill a 5-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, East College Street, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, North Side, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Historic Preservation Commission, Woodlawn, 1 vacancy to fill an unexpired term. Senior Center Commission, 2 vacancies to fill a 3-year term. Telecommunications Commission, 1 vacancy to fill a 3-year term. Vacancies will remain open until filled. And we're at item number 17, and we'll welcome Ryan if he is still present. Yes, he is, from USG.
Good evening, Council. Thank you, Mayor. Not really too many announcements tonight. Thanksgiving break is next week, and so students will be heading home or staying in their apartments and gathering with some their household members. I want to remind students to please continue to practice safety measures of social distancing, wearing your masks, keeping your bubble small. We have seen a significant increase in self-reported cases at the university, the most recent being, as of it would have been yesterday, would have been 45 new cases since Friday, bringing the semester to date caseload of students to 2,510. And there were 17 new employee cases, which is bringing the semester to date count to 212. So please continue to protect yourself against all of that so that we can remain safe. And that is it for me tonight. Thank you, Council.
Great, thank you. And then City Council, any updates by anyone?
I just had the pleasure of participating in local government day at the junior high. I think perhaps some others did as well, with Elisa Meggett's classes. Did 2 classes. One was an online class. One was at that point sort of still an in-person class, but it was really a wonderful experience to get their questions, to see how interested and active these 7th, 8th, 9th graders are. So if you have a chance to do it in the next year, you haven't done it yet, highly recommend it.
I was a part of that, and it was excellent just to engage with the youth. I also had some Zoom meetings with City High students. It was their governmental students, they're writers or reporters. Sorry if I got the name wrong of what they are, but that was great to engage with them. Also had a business innovation class Zoom with some Kirkwood students. They're in high school, but they go to Kirkwood for some college credit hours. That was great to engage with them. We did have the joint entities meeting, which was mentioned earlier in our work session. And that was where a lot of municipalities throughout Johnson County came together and really tried to push the information about what's happening with COVID here locally, really push the envelope so we can inform people of this is serious and immediate action. We need to enhance what we're doing to protect everybody's safety. Better Together also had a COVID-19 public meeting, which was, I thought it was really excellent. We had some great speakers a part of that. Again, I just want to mention again that COVID-19 is happening in our community, and the best thing that we can do is really do what we can by wearing our mask. And as Counselor Taylor, who was our nurse, will say, wash your hand and remember not to touch your face. and so social distance is really important. I think people should give a little more consideration as to what social distance mean. For me personally, I am not eating at the same table with someone outside of my household. I think you have to make your own decisions, but you're going to be in somebody's presence for a significant period of time. And so just be mindful of some of the things that is being recommended by CDC, as well as some mandates that are with the state and also with our local city here in Johnson County. Other than that, I don't have any other updates that I'll give for now.
I'd like to thank. Oh,
go ahead, Polly.
Oh, okay. I want to thank Ryan for his report, and then he brought up Thanksgiving, and that is coming up very soon, and I just hope that everyone will be able to take time to think about what they are thankful for. But please err on the side of caution, following all the safety guidelines, and do what you can to help prevent the spread. That's all.
Yeah, for me, I just like hearing everything going on now in Iowa, and I'm away from Iowa. This is really also worried me by the increasing of the COVID-19 cases, especially now. Before I heard about people having it, but I never knew like a lot of people that I know they have it. Now I just start hearing some family that I know, the whole family got COVID-19. This is telling me that this is really spreading a lot in Iowa. And I hope, just like everybody also, as Pauline and the mayor said, follow the CDC guideline and wash your hand. Don't touch your face, as they said. And I just want to tell you that this is great. I did not turn on the video because the internet is not that great. If I turn the video, maybe it will be like heavy. That's why. But I love seeing you all. And it is 5 o'clock in the morning here. And I guess after this, I will go back to sleep. Yeah. And we finish early. That's good.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to you too, everyone.
Yes. All right. Any more updates by counselors?
I think a few of us are participating this week and maybe the beginning of December with GARE, which is the Government Alliance on Race and Equity, doing a workshop on the role of government in advancing racial equity. So I'm attending that tomorrow, and I think hopefully colleagues are joining me.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any updates from our city manager? Moving on to item number 19.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
All right. Our assistant city manager, Ashley.
No, thank you.
All right. City attorney, Eleanor.
No.
All right. And then lastly, our city clerk.
I have nothing.
All right, great. We are at item number 20, which is adjournment. Could I get a motion, please?
So moved, Taylor.
Second, ma'am.
All right, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? We are adjourned, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone. We'll see you in
Take
December.
care.
Thank you.
Yeah, and stay safe, everyone. Take care of yourself.
Yes, you as well.
Okay. Okay. Thank
All right.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.